Esteemed delegates and comrades, first, thank you to the ANC for organizing this critical gathering, and thank you to all the representatives and delegates from all across the African diaspora. Special greetings to our Cuban family here with us from ECAP as well. I stand before you today as a representative of the National Network on Cuba, as well as the 45 million plus United States residents who stand in solidarity and friendship with Cuba despite what our government does. Thank you. Despite surveillance, increased repression, and increased investigations, we stand with Cuba and we will continue to educate people about Cuba. We will continue to bring youth to Cuba so that they can see the truth. I'm here to share about some of our progress and outline the path ahead in our campaign to normalize relations with Cuba, get the U.S. out of Guantanamo, get the inhumane U.S. economic blockade against Cuba lifted, and to remove Cuba from the U.S. state sponsors of a terror list. It's crucial to note that Cuba should have never been on this list in the first place, and our collective efforts seek to rectify this injustice. In the year 2023, we orchestrated hundreds of actions and political education sessions, including impactful street protests in Washington, D.C. and across the United States, where thousands protested against this designation, as well as against the U.S. economic blockade. We hosted teach-ins, conferences, and initiatives, and through our concerted efforts, we have significantly heightened awareness and opposition to the harmful and unjust policy maintained by genocide Joe Biden that has kept Cuba on this list. We've also welcomed new member groups, putting us at just under 70 member groups, which include Cuba C, New York, New Jersey, and Minnesota Cuba Committee, who are here with us today. Collectively, we've achieved an organizational milestone with the passage of over 100 resolutions from city councils, county councils, states, and senators all over the United States and colonies, including Washington, D.C., all expressing opposition to the economic blockade of Cuba and advocating for the removal of the SSOT designation. However, despite of our accomplishments, Cuba remains on the list, exacerbating the 6 decades-long U.S. economic blockade and leading to severe shortages of medicines and food in Cuba. This blockade is over 2 times as old as me. It's time for it to go. It's time for it to go. It's time for it to go. The United States is hemorrhaging Cuba's talent, energy, and resources. It's putting its nose where it doesn't belong, and it's denying the will of the people yet again. This isn't fair to Cuba when Dr. Comrade Naledi just shared how impactful Cuba has been around the world, how crucial Cuba has been in global liberation struggles, in African liberation struggles. The U.S. says Cuba isn't fully cooperating and gives unfounded explanations for the designations, but they're just mad because Cuba won't fold and that Cuba isn't cooperating with the whims of capitalism and imperialism. Cuba cooperates with the world, not bullies. The U.S. is just mad because the Cuban Revolution lives. Don't you hate a sore loser? Does the U.S. have a lung cancer vaccine? Does the U.S. have a good treatment for diabetic ulcers? I know Cuba does. As we approach the upcoming U.S. presidential election, which will absorb energy, money, and media coverage, we recognize the urgency of our cause. The time for action is now. The clock is ticking. The U.S. empire is on a rapid decline, and the subjugation of all oppressed people around the world is no longer working. This is a huge opportunity for the Cuba Solidarity Movement. Millions of people are standing in solidarity with us, and this is the moment to seize. This 7th conference is uniquely positioned in South Africa, a nation that has taken a strong stance against the ongoing genocidal atrocities in Gaza. This alignment of this conference with South Africa's call for justice at an international level adds profound meaning to our collective efforts. It underscores the interconnectedness of global struggles for human rights and liberations. The plight of the Palestinian people also resonates with the experiences of those who fought against apartheid in South Africa and exemplifies the shared commitment to confronting injustice wherever it occurs. Anywhere there's a struggle against capitalism and imperialism is my homeland. At this moment, our campaign to remove Cuba from the U.S. state sponsors of terrorism intersects with South Africa and the world's call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. It's a reminder that our battles are interconnected and the strength of our solidarity can be a force for positive change on multiple fronts. As the Palestinian youth movement mentioned just yesterday, the U.S. could not be more transparent in its feigned moral outrage over the partial blockade of Bab el-Mandeb, given its own refusal to lift its own blockade of Cuba for decades, and indeed for the entirety of most of our lifetimes. The arrogance of the capitalists is our saving grace. There are pressure points all over the world that are leading to our liberation. So I'll do my part to help liberate Cuba, and I hope you'll do your part too. The National Network on Cuba and U.S.-Cuba Normalization are urging member organizations to participate in an urgent advocacy push planned for January and February, pushing our member organizations to reach out to their congressional representatives, write protest letters, and organize events in support of Cuba throughout the year, but especially at the beginning of the year. In March, the Federation of Cuban Women will also be visiting New York to help educate the community and collaborate with our solidarity activists. We will continue to engage in cultural, medical, and educational partnerships to show the real Cuba to the world and to mobilize our youth. We will never stop until Cuba is unchained and unblocked. As our comrades mentioned earlier, action is more important than words. Let us carry with us the resonance of this historic moment in South Africa. Together, we can amplify our voices to demand justice for Cuba and to support South Africa's call for an end to the suffering of the Palestinian people. The next words are from Shaquille Fontenot, not the NNOC, but I'm going to say it anyway. Long live Palestine. Long live Cuba. Long live Africa. I send love and power to the people's struggles in Sudan, the Congo, Haiti, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii, and Western Sahara, and to all sanctioned countries fighting for self-determination and existence in the midst of colonial oppression and repression. The current world order is shifting, and there will be liberation for you too. Let us move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and renewed internationalism. For me, Cuba's liberation is everybody's liberation. It's win or die. It's victory or martyrdom. It's homeland or death. All power to the people, and especially the organized people. Long live the Cuban Revolution.
Amanda. Yeah, she was fire.